We have two issues that we put aside until we left our executive session, and here. Consideration of appointment to Los Angeles County District Health Department Board of Directors, and also consideration of appointment to Los Angeles County E911. No,
CenturyLink?
No, we didn't.
You didn't discuss
No, it's the opioid.
The opioid, yes. See, I took too many opioids.
You're lying.
Yes.
Basically, what we've decided to do on the opioid thing is find out a little more information before we make a decision. I think that is that. And
So further review, so our attorney will make a motion to table until council gets back to us.
okay,
Okay.
Commissioner Walter?
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner?
yes. In the consideration of appointment to Los Angeles County 911 Authority Board, in looking back through the minutes and looking through things, we have to advertise that. We'll solicit the input from the entities that are supposed to give us people, so we have got to do that first before we can move forward.
I make a motion to table. Second.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Walter?
Yes.
And Commissioner Loudon?
Yes. And did we table one other matter?
So
We
essentially,
have the CenturyLink, but we were going to send that contract to do.
well, and
She already has it.
Yeah.
And she said it was good to go.
So I would say we should save the money now, since she's already reviewed it. I make a motion to approve. Second.
Find it, please. Commissioner Walter?
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
And Commissioner Loudon?
Yes. I would entertain a motion to adjourn so we can get started on the next one.
I make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Who seconded that? Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Loudon?
Is this the agenda? We don't need to call it order, we don't need to be right down the flag, we don't need roll call, because then we can leave anytime they want to. So discussion of space request from Sheriff. Derek, you want to?
Nothing.
State your name, but
Derek Navarrete, Sheriff's Office. I don't know where we're at with the space issues. I did have Ms. Fraser come over a couple of weeks ago, and she took some photos, and I wanted her to kind of see the space for herself so she could report back and let you know what we're looking at. But
this is the police side.
yeah, it's the opposite side of ours, and I know there's been talk about renting the space out. I did meet with a couple of representatives from the district attorney's office last week. They looked at part of the space and also the space in the back, the old ambulance executive office. But yeah, I don't know what their plans are, but they were shown what the building looked like.
So in terms of the space, how much are you needing, what are you wanting?
Well, if we ever look to expand on our staffing, that would be probably the best place to go. It's right across the hall. There are 3 offices plus, well, there's 4 offices. I would really like to utilize the office spaces for supervisors. There is the room right across from our office is a good place for meetings. Also, there's locker rooms, there's showers. It's a good space. I would like to take as much as I possibly use. That's whatever you think would be best if we could rent something out. I'm looking at that also. I'm not against the issue of maybe renting out part of that space.
Just the current one you guys are utilizing now?
That's the current one that we have. I'm getting kind of cramped, and I'm getting 2 more deputies coming out in April, so it's getting kind of tight.
They also, you will see there's one picture there, lavatory. That is in a closet, and it is the only one on the sheriff's side, right?
Correct.
And, yes.
And it used to be an old storage area. We turned it into a bathroom, so that's the only bathroom on our side, with the exception there's one in the sheriff's office, but there's only 2. And that other one wasn't made. It was turned into one specifically for our use. We never had one for.
Where exactly are we at with repairs from the city? And have we heard a response from them regarding the?
I met with the city manager, and I indicated to him that while in past, when the chief moved out, that he and the sheriff were going to get together and make some accommodation about how they're going to do it. It took some time for them to move. Some of the other pictures that I have indicate that they still have some phones and some various equipment on the floors that they just left.
Those probably belong to the Justice Center on the
And
Could be.
possibly there's some doors that have been removed and not put back up. There's a door on the entry door on the west side, I believe, is broken. And so the walls have been painted by the Department of Corrections. However, the carpets and the bathrooms that are in there and the locker room showers, frankly, they're really dirty. There was no attempt made to clean or do anything. So when I mentioned that to the city manager, I asked that we go over together and look at that. What I wanted to do is separate the 2 issues. They said that they were not going to be paying for the Justice Center rent because we had not paid for what they thought was the E911 board item. Those are outstanding issues from our predecessors, his and mine. And but we're interested in resolving them. I think the biggest part with regard to the space that Derek's talking about is that there is one room there, I believe that you only see the number that it says 1110, that I took a picture of, that is for ammunition, I believe, and that door that is locked. There are no keys to open it, and so we can't get in there. There's another room that looks like a little tiny conference room with chairs, and that one, I believe, is what Derek had indicated to me that the Department of Corrections people would like to rent, possibly.
Right. And also the front entrance, there's space. And, I would be more than willing to let them use that space rather than the little small room. They can use the front, put a desk up there, I don't mind if they use that. And then keep his clients out of the front foyer and into the office where he can be more private.
And the singular, more critical item, I think, is that the evidence room that was vacated by, first of all, made and vacated by the police chief, that evidence room, the door was removed and went with them to the new the new place. And so it needs a door, and,
They removed the door right over here.
Actually, the
That is
lockers that they used to place evidence in front, when it kind of, the way it works is it's got a door behind it. You put the evidence in the front, you can go around inside the vault and open the door and take the evidence from the back side of it. That locker was removed. I believe they have it at their evidence vault.
and more importantly is that now the sheriff is required to, has been temporarily using that evidence room for evidence, but it's on the other side. And in the event that anyone were to come in, that would be a sort of like a violation of getting too close to that evidence of other people going there to rent or get that space. The first evidence room from the sheriff's part is still locked up. Is that-
Yes, yeah, we haven't used it. We've been using the new vault, I should say, the one off the police department since. We haven't done much with the back, but it's starting to fill up.
And it doesn't have all of the requirements that an evidence room would need, you know, by way of storing it and, you know, shelves and stuff like that.
I know the space is needed. Pictures here, we did for last year, and I talked earlier about going to the shortly. My concerns are, if we go again, put the cart in the horse, we need to resolve the issue with the city. And the discrepancies with whether we repair it or repair it. Because I don't want to give or rent or allow any space from this side until it is back in tip-top shape. I mean, there's no point doing it, and, you know, unless the repair of the carpet, and the paint's getting done, of course, and, but the doors and that back door that it probably needs to be built a wind tunnel, or like they do coming in and out of a restaurant, because that's what's pulling that door off every time. I think that's what Pete's problem had when we toured last year, so.
Well, I think that there's also, since the time that I went and the DA's personnel went, there's been a change of request in that the DA no longer wants any space at the Justice Center. He believes that it's too far away and that it's not suited to his purposes, and is requesting instead space in this building. So that conflict about who wants it is no longer there.
And Christie, and maybe you remember the 1 cent sales tax initiative, what are our parameters for that facility? If we rent it to Joe Blow, or we have?
I wasn't here when that happened. I don't know about that. I really don't know.
I think it was said to be used for public safety purposes, so I don't, you have to look at the wording on it. I'm not sure, but that's what I was told.
I'm sure we can probably pull the, from elections on what exactly the wording was, because
We don't want to violate that.
I think it's capital improvement, right?
well, it was built, I'm saying the Justice Center, but it's like I said, I don't know, because I wasn't here at the time. I don't know why the police were there with them, I really don't know. Do you know Kim about that?
I believe it was public safety.
And
or-
I-
That was my understanding as well.
And I think
It was
it-
with the 1 cent sales tax money, that it was to be public safety, which is coroner ambulance.
I think that's how they sold
Yes.
the initiative on the ballot, was that all public safety would be housed in that building. And I think that's how they worded
You
it.
know, like capital
Right.
improvement, but only for public
Right.
safety.
And then, this is cosmetic stuff, but that facility just recently has some tiles popping up in the jail. Moisture coming in from under the concrete, you know, the other issue we've had out there, it might be time to really look and address possibly just doing a whole new center with Justice Center and jail and everything combined down the road. Because the courts, because in 10 years, it's going to be really that shape.
It's getting there already.
Yeah. So I don't feel right spending a lot of money on starting to do repairs on it,
I think minimal repairs. I think what was suggested is that in the dispatch, the former dispatch center, they had put some of those big block carpet swatches. That would be an improvement. It's not that expensive. But I think in terms of utilizing the available space, it does seem to lend itself that it's been empty since January, for the most part. And the question about who else is wanting it is primarily had been looked at by the DA's office, which has now been
but
withdrawn.
other than those two offices, we have any other requests for space and the Department of Corrections. What is the Department of Corrections want to do?
They have a parole officer that comes down every week and he meets his clients, but he normally does it in the front foyer, so that's probably be a lot better for him if he was in a private setting and not so public. That's where he does. He does his meetings in the front at that little station. That's right in the front office.
And they do it with the inmates that are in the jail?
No, it's actually DOC clients that are out. They're currently on parole, but they got to meet with him.
Kim?
I just want to chime in a little bit. When I went over with Charlie, the chief,
We're gonna get you in shape today.
I guess. I'm not here to speak on behalf of the PD, but when I went over and toured their new dispatch center, he did mention that they had planned on continuing to use the dispatch center, the justice center as a secondary, and they would every so often work out of there just to make sure that it's keeping up to date and working. So I want to be careful we don't give that away or shut them down out of that. I don't know if they have equipment in there, but that's what he told me.
The
They
center,
planned on.
the call center or whatever.
Yes.
Dispatch.
Yes.
I think they had planned on keeping that as a secondary.
And we need to have a secondary in case this one shuts down, and that one shuts. It's a good idea.
So does that, based on where that is, does that interfere with anything that you want?
No, that's totally separate. It's down in it's in the hallway, but it's going towards the jail. It's not connected to that.
So are those units on at all times? Because
I don't know what's going on in there. The door's locked, so I don't.
Because it costs money to keep those in
I
school.
would, yeah, that might be something to check into, but I know that our room that we have all the connections it's locked. We have that controlled with coolant or air conditioning, but I don't know what's going on inside that dispatch center because it's locked. And it's the police department's issue there, so we don't go in there.
I would like to add that on the evidence room that was the chief's, there was a separate meter, and they did identify that that was for that separate room, and they have since turned that off, right?
I don't know if it's turned off. We checked it that day
Or
when we were
transferred.
there. It
Yeah.
shut down everything in that front office except for that vault area, so that vault must be connected to our jail.
Yeah.
But I don't think they shut it off. We're just keeping the lights off.
Is the Department of Corrections paying rent now, or are they just?
No, they just come in the front foyer and just use that space. It's just an easier meeting
It's just
space.
kind of like a, in-kind type thing we do.
Yeah, it's just a courtesy for him because it's easier for him to, because then he'll talk to us about clients. Sometimes we hold his clients on a few days of a hold. If he recommends it, we'll hold him.
So it's not really a prospect to have a revenue stream, really.
Probably not a whole lot, but he does come in once a week. May expand that. I don't know what their plans are.
I think we need to, I go over there, other than just a few pictures, and start looking at it and see, figure out what we're gonna do with him, what we're gonna prepare or not, and then you guys might think you need, and then we can probably get on that. But I do see it's pretty cramped. Where you guys now, so
maybe in the future, if we are able to expand the we're gonna need that space. And that's the obvious choice, to go straight rather than have to build something or go that way. But if, it's easier to see it, so if you want to look at it, and you'll understand a little bit better what we're looking at.
Maybe we can invite the city manager again while we do this. That's my opinion. Because if they want to say the E911 and the rent or the facility, two different issues. One's an
They are.
agreement, one's a contract. It was a lease. And I read the lease. The lease was to be left in the same condition they got. It was brand new. So,
I mean, it just needs to be fixed. Everywhere, hanging everywhere, doors off.
Doors off and wires hanging around.
Have you talked to Kenny in any way? Does he have any ideas about any fixes, cosmetic fixes or anything like that? Or we talked to him on the feet down at the jail?
They've already painted, that made a big difference. The cleanliness, the actual, you just need a good cleaner to get in there and clean up those bathrooms and facilities. And
we need new carpet.
the carpet is bad. There's just no.
Right, and I had to talk to Ms. Frazier about that carpet. We put tile on our side. We ripped our carpet out because it was just filthy. Can't keep it clean. The tile's a little slick, but we put some runners down, and it's been much easier to clean, and it's fairly inexpensive. It's just those square. And I think Pete Valdez may have done that work for us, or we had somebody come in, but it wasn't that big of a. Yeah, and it's easier to mop and keep clean. That carpet on the PA side it's filthy. At least she saw it. It needs to go. It's not healthy.
The important thing, I think, is having those locked rooms, because where the room with the one that's locked for the ammunition, really, we should have the key to that, and it should be, open and accessible. The dispatch, I do understand that for the secondary, but the phones that were all left there, that's another question.
Derek, don't we pay somebody to clean the sheriff's department monthly? Don't we have a contract?
Yeah, we
with
do.
somebody?
We do have one. He hasn't been coming. I guess I don't know if he was out on some type of sick leave, but he did come in. I don't know if he was cleaning the other side or just ours. I don't know.
Okay.
But he does come.
I didn't know the details on it, but.
Yeah, he did
Just
ours.
paying
And
somebody
I think
to
he
clean
used
for
to
you
do
guys.
the police department side when they were there, but I don't think he's been, there's nobody over there, so I don't think he's been spending any time on it.
I mean, I know it's a whole lot better than what it was if you get that, but if you got adequate space, if we give you that, I mean, I know it's double what you probably got or, something, but.
It would. And what I like about the conference room across from us, it has locker rooms, and if you need to clean up or change of clothes, you don't bring dirty things home, you could change out. It's just sitting there. It's got a lot of lockers, it's got bathroom space. It's really nice, and it's something we could really use.
You make a good point, Derek. When your men are out, and women out in the field, and you have altercations and arrests, you're rolling in the mud and the blood and the pits.
You don't want to bring that home, so you can clean up.
That makes a good point for me. If you guys could utilize that facility. I know the door was missing completely on the men's bathroom.
Yeah, I think one of the stalls was missing.
Yeah, the stalls and all.
The main door going in is still there, but there's work that needs to be done.
How do you take it?
Yeah, I don't know.
You can get mad and you talk to the city. So, but yeah, that would be an asset. There's no pictures of it in here, but there is a man and a woman talking. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Be used by, we have some female detention officers. We don't have any current patrol deputies, but we do have female detention officers that can use that space to change or clean up or whatever they need to do. And just right now, we just have basic bathrooms in the jail for them to use.
When the PD was there, did they never allow you to share, utilize the locker room?
No, we never went over there. We didn't use anything of theirs.
Wow.
Then they got the lion's share of that stuff.
Yeah, and that was for the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Because I think when it was initially planned and built, that was something that they had built on their side. I think they specifically built that, but we were never allowed to use it. I really asked to anyway, but they didn't.
Well, you think we gotta get cleaned up before you move in, I mean, it's gotta be.
And I know you got issues with the payment or whatever, and I know we did talk about that, and I'll leave that up to the county and the city, but, you know, whatever is best for everyone, we can definitely use it. That's a given.
Yeah, the revenue should, or even just replace, repair and replace, and their expense, not ours.
I think that we're probably in a good spot to go ahead and separate these issues and say, let's address them one at a time. In terms of even the cleanliness, if they don't want to clean up that, then we can do it and pass the bill on to them. There's a number of things we can do. I think that we can try to resolve that in short order.
All right. We set up appointment to the tour, you guys can correlate that with me.
Yeah.
That's right with you guys.
You know, I look at this as, that's kind of our building, and I don't want to get in a, I don't want to get into this and match over this, it needs to be cleaned up, we need to clean it up.
I was just gonna say match.
Alright.
And I think after all the paint and the walls got fixed, there's really just little things that need to be fixed and cleaned out. The front is still filled with junk on the floor, I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's just more cleaning than anything. The walls have been repaired. It just needs a little bit of work. But I don't think it's monumental.
We should see what the tile would cost. Move forward, if that's what you want to do.
Well, it needs to be cleaned up, let's get it cleaned up, and then we can resolve the rest of this somewhere down the line. I mean, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars here. Let's get it where we can use it, where they can use it now instead of, and then, I don't know, we'll work something out with the city, hopefully we can, but let's get it done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anything else?
Hi, Dirk.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Discussion of courthouse space request for DA. Are you the DA?
I'm not the DA. Hi, my name's Robert Beck. I'm the office administrator for the DA. And we also went over to the Justice Center and looked at for the space that they had over there. And he found that there was some rooms here. I guess you mentioned them earlier. I don't know what to refer those rooms as, but
The apartment, let's say.
yeah, okay, the apartment. And that would work better for the DA as far as transferring the files from the Justice Center over to here. And it would also be better for the DA for storage of the files. Right now, we're storing a lot of the extra files in Walsenburg, and when they need them, they have to go to Walsenburg to get those. So the storage would be good for us here, as well as the closeness versus the Justice Center of taking files. It would be just one upstairs instead of going, making the distance from the other one to this one, this facility here.
If I may, to the, I guess after they looked at the Justice Center and the ambulance part and all the various that again, as I said, that was withdrawn. But there's some issue about some prior commitments by the board if the Department of Human Services, where they have been storing in that apartment some of their files, and that space then would not necessarily be available for those files. But the DA had suggested at first from 3 to 4 offices, now he's suggesting that they could probably put 4 to 6 people in that apartment with the way that it's laid out. There would have to definitely be some security at the moment. If you go to open the external door to the courtyards, there's 2 doors. There's no alarms at all, so that once it's open, you could be in there, go out and egress. There would be no sound alarm. So there would be those issues. And then having to hear from the DHS people what their space needs are with regard to this filing.
I guess I'd like to hear from you right now, Arlene, before we go down this road. We know what you need, and then we know what's available.
Commissioner, you have seen the stack of files that we have in that one area that we need to maintain. In addition to, and those are just eligibility program files that are closed, but yet they're kind of open and closed, so we're constantly in that stack of files. We have other program area files in all the programs, adult protection, child support, single entry point, child welfare, that we need to maintain file space as well. And depending on the program, we have to keep 3 to 7 years worth of those files saved before we can destroy them. So we've got quite a bit of need of file storage for all of that. And as you know, we've had water issues in the basement at the new DHS building. So, I mean, we have currently all the sealed adoption records down there in that one room that was specifically built for that. There's a door and there's a lock on those sealed records, but the other areas are not sealed, and you knew how far the water went in that one time that when Bob went down, so it was quite extensive through there. So we're concerned that if we do store files down there, we may have water damage to them, and some of it that may not meet the needs of the state for storing our files.
So in terms of what you might need, and I want to know what it is right now, so that then we know what may be available to them. So I know we were talking about putting it in the hallway, but are you going to need the chambers too, or?
The hallway would just be the current LEAP files. So we figure that will take pretty much that whole space through that breezeway area. So we would still need, and again, without, actually getting measurements, it's hard to say how much space we need in the apartment. The stacks that we currently have are taller than what the rooms would allow us to put, so we have to shorten them.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
We have to get, because
The ceilings are lowered over there.
And they've got that big storage room, is it school ceiling go in there too? As you walk in up the stairs, to the apartment, the first door to your left. We looked in that, I think it's a really big room. We've got a lot
I
of
have to go back and
Christmas
look.
stuff in there.
Oh, that other room.
First one, you walk in, go upstairs, first one to the left. It's a big room. I mean, I think that would be a good place for our files as well.
That has all the maintenance stuff and all our cots for emergencies, so if we needed to.
just sit up here,
I
Kim.
should have just moved. I'm trying to get my space away. We have pots stored in there and a lot of the maintenance stuff, so if we needed to clean it out, we wouldn't mind sharing it, but that's what's in that area. And also, Pete mentioned the back doors and the entryways through the back. I would suggest not using them as entrance or exits, because that leaves a way for someone else to come in and out for leaving those doors unlocked, don't they? If they're being unlocked now, they need to be locked.
You say just lock them permanently.
Maintenance uses them in and out, but they're supposed to lock them when they go in and out.
So what about if you have a fire?
They're supposed to have the push.
On the push button, okay.
Nobody's supposed to be back there anyway, so they don't really need to have them.
That may be the only way out.
Then you have to unlock the front door to get out of it.
There. it appears to me that there's other space even, and I think that one thing is we start looking at storage space. There's, we could just pile a bunch of boxes on top of one another, but there are other kind of storage needs that really compress it and make it for good storage. And when Commissioner Lopez and I were over at the new DHS building, we noticed that the jail, the jail room, it was closed and locked, but it was empty. And there's, that's space.
But I don't think we can put anything in there, can we?
Well, being that we're losing our big coffee break room, I was hoping to put some little, like sofa cushions in there and kind of create just another little coffee break area for staff, since our kitchen area is so small on that third floor now.
We put it to jail?
In the
Yeah.
jail?
But CTSI.
I was gonna say, I thought that the insurance said that we have to lock it, or take it off to where somebody doesn't get locked in there, or
We have to
something.
take the latch off so that nobody snatches their fingers. If they snatch their fingers in that jail cell, we can cut them off. So they suggested we lock it and don't let anybody in there, or take the door off.
How do we get away with that with prisoners for all them years?
They don't have fingers in there.
And keeping it locked kind of defeats the purpose of why the Historical Society wanted us to keep it.
Right, and I don't think that the Historical Society wanted to use it as a storage closet as well. I think they wanted it to be seen as, this is what the jail
You know, part of the
look
rents and
like.
everything.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what.
A tourist attraction, maybe we could create a revenue stream there.
All right, well, I've got some more insight. Last year when I took office, and I think when Pete first got here, we kind of went around all the offices here. If I remember correctly, the elections office upstairs was pretty vacant. Up on the upper side, as you go to Peach's office, and go directly across the hall from her, there was a lot of space in that.
Yes.
There wasn't even no desks, no nothing in there. It was utilized.
Yeah, when we take these desks here, when they start, isn't that right? If we take all of these
During election, yes.
during an election, that's the only time, but during an election.
That's the only time it's busy is during election.
So that's basically kept.
Well, it's needed every 2 years.
Well, I think that you're headed in a good direction, because when you look even at where the CSU extension is now, there's this long space. And we're finding that while people need space, that some have a lot of space and others are all cramped up together. And we just simply have to
The
look at it.
space though has to be secured for your files, right?
Well, and then they have bolts inside the doors.
So that's the concern that we have. If they could fit in that shared space for storage, I don't think it's big enough if you're gonna share the space. There's a lot of files. Those are what, 7 or 8 racks?
And there's space downstairs too.
So, Mr. Dakodak, what you're basically looking for is space for file cabinets, is that what I'm hearing you say?
No, for staff as well. Offices, it's getting more crowded upstairs, and he's looking at other staff coming in too, and he needs more space for them. 4 to 6 more staff.
So he hasn't hired yet? So,
That apartment has 1, 2, how many we got? 3, 4, 5, and then the kitchen. It's got some space.
So if the DA's office could use that in order to use the other, is that workable solution or not?
Possibly, yeah.
I think they could get together and resolve how to do that.
we're talking about a big room. And that door can be locked.
Because,
Okay, but if it's not a door on it, I don't remember the first door or not. We can look at it afterwards.
I mean, if we've got enough room that everybody can live happily ever after, that's what we want to do. But I mean,
I also worry, sorry.
Let's give you a microphone.
I'm just gonna sit up here. I also worry if you're trying to put staff in this back apartment, it's not ADA compliant.
It's not what?
It's not ADA compliant. There's steps to get up through the hallway, there's steps to get out. It's no way ADA compliant. The bathroom doesn't work. I'm not trying to be just like devil's advocate here. And I know they said they didn't want the Justice Center, but that other half of it, where the Trinidad Ambulance office used to be, would be a perfect office space for extra staff. I know they're separated, but it's ADA compliant, and it has its own doorway in and out, it has its own restrooms.
What's the ambulance plan on getting out of there?
Well, they're not in that piece.
Yeah.
They're not in that.
Office?
They haven't been in that, they just use the bays and the one end, they don't use the
They
other.
saw the room with the big screen and the kitchen and all that?
Yeah, they still
They
have
still have that,
Mhm.
but the offices next door.
the back between the former and the
They also
ambulance.
have these repairs as well, if I remember correctly.
They had started doing some repairs on it, because we were going to put the EOC over there at the beginning, before we put it at the new ambulance, but, when you walk in, they were, Derek and Ronaldo's offices were gonna be in the front, and then they have that back huge room that you can turn into several different offices.
So we could run into some problems with not having this flying downstairs, but that would work.
Or you could maybe possibly put Arlene's storage over there as well.
Yeah, but if we can't utilize those offices because they're not ADA compliant, it's worth.
Well, at the Justice Center they are, but not in the apartment. That apartment is not ADA
Arlene
compliant.
could never use those offices because of ADA, but
Or
what the DA was saying is that they really would be taking some administrative staff to be there. That would just be, not moving around a lot.
So they come to work, like, you remember when you got injured, and then
Well, the Justice Center is ADA compliant.
we're not the apartment.
Oh, the apartment, I don't think anybody should have an office in there. That's just my opinion, but if his office was in there, how's he gonna get in and out right now? You just never know what kind of staff you have, and then you have to rearrange everything to,
But if we were to store files in there, does that still need to be ADA compliant if she's just?
well, your maintenance people are the ones who store your files, and they have to have certain physical abilities to make your maintenance. So they're the ones who'll be moving the boxes around.
Okay, so, but if they want to go get something out of that file, does it have to be ADA
Oh, I don't
compliant?
know how are they gonna, if they're in a wheelchair, they're not gonna get in there.
They're not gonna, that was the consideration. I think there are I'd say at least 4 offices that are very nice offices, spacious, and that can be accommodated, but one of the other things is that the need for space is starting to become apparent, but maybe what we ought to do is just be looking at, like I said earlier, all of the space that's available, because then we would find the best place for just the storage. These vaults that are in there, whether they're in like the CSU extension where Robert is in there, those are nice vaults and they have big space. The accounting office has these big vaults. We have vaults. There's all kinds of various spaces. I would suspect that the space that the clerk and recorder office has, that's across the hallway from where we are, that is full of storage, but I bet it's way beyond the years for change. And so it just takes a little plan of what we want to do.
But how often do you go to these files, and is it going to be, if you got to come over here to one of these vaults, or do you put stuff in there that you don't use but once a year, or something like that? I don't know.
The ones in that big room, those big stacks, those are pretty frequent, that staff are getting into those probably 4 or 5 times a week, if not more. The other files, not so much. They're usually closed, and generally we don't need to pull those as often. Child welfare, yeah, we're getting into those as families come back to us. But otherwise,
Has Ernie had a chance to measure the breezeway and then the length of the file cabinets?
I think we did several years ago that we figured all those lead file cabinets would go in there, and just keep that one program in there, and then the rest we.
He's probably on both sides.
Yeah.
This is another 80 compliant, not wide enough now.
there's a bigger question too, is that once you finally move, are you gonna come with more storage than that's already there?
I don't know, yeah, that will remain to be seen. The other thing is, come October, we should be going to that electronic data management system. We have all the scanners already that the state has provided, so all the active files will start to be scanned, that we won't need as much file space for active, the ones that we're currently working on. And eventually that backlog, all that stack in that one room, should be electronically filed as well, but that'll take time to catch up with the backlog. So the other programs aren't doing that yet, just the eligibility program.
I would say possibly we look and explore more of our office space that we have here. I mean, the vaults and see what we have before we move forward. But if we're ADA compliant issues with that downstairs apartment, then I'm going to have to cite on the side of safety. Or we don't want any legal issues.
And based on, Mr. Doctor, based on what you've heard Ms. Chavez say there, that maybe those offices down there at the Justice Center may be better served for the county and maybe you. I know it's a little bit of a disconnect, but if you just got administrative people down there that are basically doing day-to-day stuff, maybe that's not as big a deal.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be happy to get whatever space that he could get. And it was just for the convenience of having it in this building.
Right.
But I think for the ADA, I think those back doors could be easily converted to ADA compliant.
They have to run through the security before they come into work, every employee.
Yeah, I got to come to security.
But then we would just close them off or lock them.
We would definitely close them off and lock them, and then we'd have to put a ramp in the front. Sorry.
Yeah, this is bad news.
We'd have to put,
That's why I don't get invited to the meeting. Well, that's why we do invite you. Sorry, everybody has to go in and keep us on our
I
toes.
think we got a strike in it.
That's why we invite you, Kim, because you keep us on your toes.
I think we're just going to have to go look at those rooms out there to see what kind of shape they're in for Mr. Simano. And go from there. I know he's a room, but also like to get if you could set it up, Bob, for us. So I haven't been in the office, and I walked in one time, I had a meeting with him, but, so he could show our administration or one of those commissioners the space he has now, what he's using, and where he needs, and why he needs more.
Okay.
That'd be good for me, so I can, when we discuss why we're giving the space out, it's justified.
All right, then I'll get back to you.
So and she can say,
And I keep hearing, and I don't know this either, but I hear that there's space on the 4th floor. Is there?
ADA compliance again.
And the same issue about compliance?
Stairs
Okay.
and stuff.
There's no elevator to the floor.
Okay.
Or they use them with, that's a state thing, it's not county,
Okay.
right?
Storage.
Storage is okay.
okay, well, I think we got at least a place to start, and but I think you really need to go down there and look and start thinking in your mind, maybe that's where we're going to end up, is down there. Thank you. Discussion of DHS move to new building. We've been having this discussion for 7 years since I've been here.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So we have gotten a quote from Istonish, which is probably the biggest thing that we need to get in order. That's our network and all our computer systems, and the quote is like for $9,700. That includes all the workstation rooms, all the printers, even our non-networked printers, the router, the server, the UPS move, and the LAN switch move. So $9,700 it'll cost us for them to take all our racks out and bring them over, and all the computer equipment. So all they need from us is a date. And then we would have to coordinate our phone, with AT&T and Comcast for the rest of that. The other thing we want to know is our phone system. We're not sure if we're going to have to take the equipment that's there in the coffee room. That whole wall is like all electronic stuff. And so we're hoping that the phone system, all those switches and everything will work over here with the new phones that we currently have in storage over here. So we didn't know Fane Long is a person that we could contact to assess that and give us a quote as to what the move or setting up the phones would cost. Or we used to use Dick Anderson, but he has since retired, so he gave us names of a person in Colorado Springs to do it. We've never worked with that person or know him. We have worked with Fane in the past, and I think the county has as well. So that's one question. We would like to know what your preference is.
Let me ask you this, and somebody else from our range got to answer this. That $9,700, do we need to go to bid for that?
It's the state
Okay.
contractor, so yeah, that's who the whole state uses for all of our program networks.
Okay. That's good.
I don't walk through your building recently and T I went through. And every floor's got like a station in the lecture room, right? Is that where your computer stuffs are gonna be just brought over and put in that, plugged in? So it's already been wired?
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be, because I don't know if you recall, we had walked through the second floor, I think, one day, and there was nothing there. And so we asked the contractor, how are we gonna hook up phones and computers? So Mr. Antista and somebody else, I think our phone guy was there that day, and so they kind of worked with them to set that up.
And some of those plug-ins where you couldn't get to them,
Right.
to plug in your phones, you could not get to. It was astonishing.
Yeah, we figure we'll probably run into some challenges once we get in there and start utilizing the space.
But you already have phones over there for your...
Yeah, phones have been purchased years ago.
They're antiques now.
Yeah, so.
You might want to call computer kernel because they're local, because the gentleman you're talking about, he's going to charge you for travel.
Yeah.
And I think computer kernel's pretty good because they've worked on a couple of phone problems that we've had. And I think he's pretty up to, that's up to you. I'm just trying to tell you, you want to, since he's a local person.
Yeah, we can probably call him and
Yeah,
ask
it's
him.
gonna be travel.
He's like $250 just to come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Fane travels from Florence is where he's from.
But like I said, computer kernel, they've come a couple of times because a problem with our fax machine. And he was very determined to find it, and he did. And he fixed it for us.
So Arlene, does this move, you move the computers and you hook them up the same day? I mean, you got to...
It's probably going to take a couple of days is what they told us, and more than one person. Take more than a day.
Right, with you being down for a day or two?
Yeah, they know, and they're hoping maybe we can coordinate it on a weekend so that we have, a Saturday or Sunday, or a Friday and Saturday, we close one day. Just because of those benefit programs and the timeliness that we need to meet on those.
Great.
So we just kind of need a date, and if you have a preference for that, then we'll start working with Comcast and AT&T and everybody else to try and get as close to that date as possible.
You have to coordinate too with the city when you actually move in proper certain homes, you can walk the street. I did talk to Mr. Rossetti with the street bridge. and asked them about the bricks out front there and they were wobbly and stuff. They're all new torn out. And they're replaced. They're redoing all these water and sewage lines in the next 6 months. They're gonna start. That's why these people have been downtown Main Street, and all over there doing cameras and finding where these lines go. So that will be torn out and they'll replace them with brick again, I'm sure, for the historic district, but they will be repaired. And but your roads are going to be torn. It's going to be tough to access for either if you're on one side or the other. So
Yeah.
parking's going to get to a minimum.
Well, if they're gonna tear that out, do we need to think about trying to get them, making it better parking there? Or
Yeah, because that little bit of a slope is gonna be difficult for people in wheelchairs or walkers, canes. But I think
And the budget talks to Tom Beach on
And Tom Beach was here when we done the walkthrough on the ADA and the handicap, so
that.
he was well aware of, or we may need to have him come back over when they do that. Just really quick, we also, when we talked in our last work session about the employees moving the boxes and stuff, we did set up that body mechanic class, because the target date was March 15th, and so we have a body mechanics class set up for DHS for March 13th. And it will be over at the Gibson.
So when do you want to move, when are you ready to move?
Yeah, Bob and I are like a bit overwhelmed with it. I guess we just need to call the other providers that we need to get in touch with and let them know we're ready to go, but everybody kind of wants a date, so towards the end of March, I mean, or shall we go April Fool's Day?
That's Sunday. That's appropriate.
Yeah, that's Easter.
That's actually Easter Sunday.
Yeah, it is. Easter. And this way we can, I mean, we can probably start moving some other things, you know, in between. But that network system, we'll need to have a firm date on that.
I think you'd better contact your phone and computer people and coordinate that, and then based on that, I would tell them if they can get to you on a Friday, Saturday, that would be the 23rd, 24th.
Well, question, is the phone system in the new place a separate phone system from the old place, or is it you're going to take one out of there and bring it over?
And that's what we're not sure of, if what's currently there is gonna work over here. So that's what needs to be assessed.
Because the phone's going to be installed prior to the...
Yes, and that's what I think that we could possibly look at this paging for, or, you know, local someone to do in advance of some of those things.
And make sure the little phones still work.
Yeah.
You know, I guess from my point of view, Arlene, is because I'm old and tired, but you're the one that needs to figure out when you can make this work.
Okay.
I mean, you know, for us to sit here and say, okay, you do it on the 23rd, we don't know what you're in the middle of at that point. You and your staff know when would be the best time for you all to do. Better than me, I can't speak for the others, but better than me, I don't know when. You've got some time, and okay, this is a good time to move, or boy, this is the end of the month, we have all this.
Right. And honestly, no time's a good time over there anymore, given the volume that we keep dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But we'll just figure it out and maybe try and do, especially for eligibility, try and do half staff, and so the other staff are there, you know, still working and try and coordinate that. So
I was shooting for the 24th, because that's the assembly. I have to be over there.
Well, you know, I was thinking that with like a moving, working committee, one that would be looking at the phone system, one with your information system, one with the actual logistics of getting the boxes from here to there, and just kind of getting this committee of folks together, and whether we use some maintenance people, we use the technician people, and then just kind of saying what has to happen first and just bite the bullet and just do it.
Yeah, and then we'll also need DOC probably, 2 or 3 days, when we've got stuff ready to come over and then when we make the big move.
And I think that I would really like to see that we schedule it sooner rather than later for audit purposes, because we're going to be bumping right into that too.
Yeah,
And
we've thought about that
yeah.
also.
So we get our financials are always at the end of the month, and there are certain times that we're exceedingly busy that we could work kind of backwards.
Everybody's picking everything up, so it'll maybe even help you out on that, I don't know.
Okay.
And whatever level you want to, it's not stooping over and picking it up.
Okay. I'll check with Bill too.
How do they feel that when I toured last week, there was some stuff in the offices, were they excited?
Yeah.
I think most staff are ready to go. Yeah, some staff not so much, but,
They're
most
just
are
ready to
ready.
move?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been hanging over them for a long time, so they're ready.
But some already have some of their stuff moved over.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in their offices. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, you're having the little bill for tissue.
Yes,
And it's in the basement there,
yes.
not using the new place.
No. Yeah, there's no room. We're gonna have to figure things out when we do go over there. I mean, we'll still try and do our get-togethers, but
You miss your kitchen.
yeah, we're definitely gonna miss our break room.
Given this, the number of desks that are already in place on the new building, our, again, discussion is you just leave in place all of the old desks?
Well, that was, part of our plan, to either do like a yard sale there in the hall or, and now we've got this new discussion about, countywide sales, so.
And let me ask a question, Christie, is this effort that we're doing for our audit for the inventory inclusive of Arlene's stuff?
She just needs to actually just track what's disposed of, what's sold as an asset. I'll just need to have that information.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not for 17, it'll be for 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're still doing an inventory.
Okay.
So, but you still come on everything. But as long as they track everything that they dispose of, or that we sell. Okay.
Going back to Derek's question about a door, we've got that brand new door that was like a $750 door that still has all the hardware. It's still in the possibility for them to use or not.
Do you want to sell it or give it?
It was $750, so you decide.
Are we all in county?
Can we all get along? Do you know the dimensions of that door?
I think it was standard, and I think it was fire rated because it was gonna be in the lobby that goes, as you go in the lobby to the left, it was gonna be that door there as it goes into the hallway.
Was I really need for that?
I don't know, but somebody can come look at it.
We want it.
I think that's a Kenny question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, can you look at it?
Yeah, I still have the paperwork on it, so I can scan that and send it over.
I can give you a nice thank you for your time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I think, is that all we need to talk about?
I think so.
So let me know when you're gonna do this, and hopefully I'll be there to help you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill.
Okay.
Yes?
Don't run. Trip on this carpet.
Look like you're good.
You don't sue your friends, so I would not trip and do nothing. I'd like to revisit the last item, and I just need an update as to the request to use the space in the courthouse. I heard that there was a belief that the ADA would apply, let first of all state, number one, that the district attorney's office would not provide and meet with any member of the public in that space. That is totally for workspace. Any public person who needed to meet with the district attorney's office would meet on the third floor. Therefore, I don't believe the ADA applies. If there was ever any employee who had handicap needs, that employee would not be housed in that space, and all the ADA requires is accommodation for people for the purposes of access to the building. If the ADA would apply, as I understood was told, then the whole fourth floor, you'd have to tell the judicial department they can't use the fourth floor. And it's the same thing. All they have is their staff and or other people who have business with them to go up there, and if they can't be up there, then they hold the advisements in the jury room, which is on the third floor. So I had just heard that was an issue, and I just wanted to explain that I don't believe the ADA applies. Now, you know, for 4 years, 7 years, I was the solicitor labor, a part of which was ADA handicap compliance. Before that, the Justice Department. So I'm very familiar with it, and I would not ask the county commissioners of the county to violate law in that regard. The reason why that space is most optimal, and I apologize, I was dealing with some other court space. Given how our cases are required, how we have to interact with the courts, we have to have for our files and for the attorneys and they're taking their files back and forth to the court, access to this, directly access to the court. Having files offsite, which we can't do, requires us to load them up, transport them in a car or a vehicle, unload them, then take them up. And that just simply won't work. The space over there we've looked at, and to the extent that it would provide usable space in terms of staff proximity for access to files and the other things, the most staff that I could probably put over there, out of the staff we have, is 3. I indicated to Ms. Frazier that if we had the space down below, we would probably be able to accommodate 6 to 8 staff. The reason for that is the staff would need to have immediate access to some of our files, would not have to try and travel from the Sheriff's Department into this building to get to the files. They would only go up basically 2 or 3 floors. And that's why I could put more staff in that space downstairs, which then allows for more space on the 3rd floor. It allows to preserve the meeting room, which is the conference room for meeting the public when we meet with victims, family members of victims, or witnesses. So that's the whole piece of it. The other part of it is because of where it's located, directly below the district attorney's office, to hardwire our internet and other kinds of things is most easily done. They're straight out that door, down into that area, and immediately into the workspace. So we would have immediate and easy and reliable internet access, greater staff down there, more space overall. To the extent staff needed to have access to the files, they would immediately be within 5 minutes, 1 elevator ride up. All of that is really why that space seemed to be prime. As we looked at it also, that space would be larger than what is available in terms of space that we would use out of the Sheriff's Department, understanding the Sheriff's Department's needs. So that's the reason why, in a lot of ways, until I understand there might be a new criminal justice center off in the future, all of that would work in terms of the needs, the physical needs of the district attorney's office.
Kim, do you think anything CTSI would have issue with that?
We can surely have them come and look at the space.
And if what you're saying is, not going to hold us liable, then maybe we can make it work.
We can have them come and look at the space, but just keep in mind, they would not be able to use those back accesses. They'd have to come through the front door and go through the hallway.
Yeah, through security.
I understand. One of the things I've talked about is several things. One of which is it's not as secure as some of your other first floor space in terms of somebody breaking a window or breaking a door. We would make sure that it's secure, primarily because the nature of our files are such. We want to preserve the integrity of our files. We would also make
have to be installed. Security would have to be installed on the doors.
And,
Fireworks.
exactly. I mean, we believe the doors would have to probably be much more secure and safe than they currently are. That's not a criticism of where it is, it's just that our needs for security, in addition to what I believe the county's needs for security, are the same, and that would need to be taken care of. And that's part of what we would assume responsibility for in terms of helping make it be usable space.
Well, and Mr. Apodaca was referencing, you're thinking of 3 people at first and now 4 to 5. Have you started the hiring process?
No.
And how soon are we looking at needing the space?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think all of us want to see what the revenue stream looks like. And my understanding
$115.
That's all they receive.
Pardon?
That's all they receive from the sales tax.
And I understand that. I think as we all understood, the state won't even start giving us that amount of money any sooner than April 1. And even with the allocation that the county commissioners have made as a placeholder on our budget, I'm trying to be conservative and cautious. While I appreciate the anticipated amount, which is less than the full amount, last position I want to be in is sort of burning it all and then finding out for whatever reason the revenue stream is not there. It doesn't help me, it doesn't help you, and that's why I've held off on additional hiring as
Well,
much as
and
possible.
since you did that, and she makes a good point just now, you've been allotted the full funding since January 8th, or whatever the first check came through, 41,000 minus the other, your wage withholdings, insurance stuff.
Right.
So you've saved some revenue by not having to hire those folks as of right now, so maybe we can help utilize, or help us utilize those funds if this works with CTSI to repair and do the doors we need to do downstairs, because we don't have budget for it.
No, and then, I mean, one of the statements I made to Ms. Fraser was, I do understand the county's tight, and in anticipation of the fact that there are going to be revenues and how I do vacancy savings that can help do that, I anticipate that that would be something that I would do.
I don't anticipate a lot of money, but, we're gonna have to, it's gotta come from somewhere.
I agree, but I haven't even started costing that out because we wanted to first go through the permission part of that
I
process.
think Kim could look into that, and then once we know from them, then we can.
So as soon as I know, I can begin the process of figuring out how to evaluate the space, how to evaluate the conversion needs of it.
We're gonna need more maintenance personnel.
Well, and if I might just add one other piece, and I don't know if you brought up the issue of, or the topic of shared services and accounting with county commissioners. As you may know, and I'll make this very brief, way before I was here, some district attorney, a district attorney, removed the payroll, the accounting function from one of the counties who had been doing it for the district attorney's office. That may or may not have been related to issues and fights and challenges over appropriation and budget, whatever, okay? I just know that that had been done. So since that time, the district attorney's office has, one, tried to maintain its own accounting function, but that did not prove to be successful. And my predecessor, you all know probably by way of his budget, got to a situation where he then outsourced the accounting payroll function. That helped get him in compliance with budget for 1.5, maybe 2 years. So we had been paying for and maintaining that service. We changed last July when Miller was here. We changed from the one accounting firm to another accountant. And that accountant is now in a situation where they don't believe, given the volume of all their work, that they can continue to do our work, our services. Part of what I've begun talking to that accountant was us utilizing one part of our FTE to use a person who had been a bookkeeper for one of the things that ran oil to do bookkeeping for us, but still have the major accounting functions being done outside. I am losing that accountant. I've begun the conversations with your staff to see about, again, going back to the way it used to be, which is that accounting for the DA's office would be performed by your administrative officer, your finance director, and closely with that, your county administrator. We would do that, and we would pay for a portion amount to do that. That's what we would like to do. And I've said to the commissioners before, I do believe that the county should have, in addition to a solid, strong administrative staff, a good, solid, strong finance department. It is very good, but you can't do everything with just a very few people. But my request would be, if you could approve it as soon as possible, that you authorize us entering into that arrangement. It would be by contract, intergovernmental agreement, where we would pay for services. I've talked with your staff, and they can answer for themselves if they believe they can do it with the added resources or something to provide the added resources. There may be other departments or other departments, for lack of a better word, that could do that, should do that. That's up to them. This, to me, is a situation which would make sense for all of us.
I have a question.
Yes.
What you're stating, back when that supposedly was going on, was it done? Because you're not just Los Angeles County District Attorney, your district, third judicial district attorney. Was that done with Orfano County as well?
It was done in its entirety, as I understand. Let me just explain another reason why it is also done. All of the employees in the office for me are Los Angeles County employees for the purposes of all your benefits and everything else. So, notwithstanding the fact that I spread across 2 counties, I don't believe there's anything that prohibits this kind of contractual relationship with the county. I can actually tell you that Orfano County offered to do this about a month ago. It's not that I don't like Orfano County or disagree with Orfano County. At that time, I had no reason to think that I was going to lose an accountant. As you know, the volume, 2/3, 1/3 is basically the workload out of our office. If you have the capacity, it makes it simpler. First of all, we wouldn't have to be relaying paperwork, invoices, and everything else from Trinidad to Walsenburg if we didn't. Here it would be, everything would be done, relayed down to the first floor from our floor. We'd have to work with you all to have and maintain our own files. Talk to Ms. Fraser about it, where we'd have to maintain our own human resources files, but the documentation there would have to be very precise and consistent with what finance would have. You all, I believe, could segregate for the purposes of files where the files you have for us would be, or we would find and maintain space for that. If that space on the first floor becomes ours, that's just literally across the hall, because there is some space there to have us have secure files. So my proposal is, before I go out and try to engage another accounting firm, that I first look to you all, if you're agreeable to perform that function by intergovernmental agreement. And I think the issue before we have been fights, the battles over funding between the commissioners and the district attorney's office. I don't usually operate that way, never have in the past, but 1A and 1B have gone a long ways to remove the challenges and disagreements that various entities may have with the county commissioners. I believe it's something that can work. I think it's cost effective. Rather than me hire and outsource it, hire and pay for related staff. You all know and do the very same things that would be done for us for your own employees. So that's the other tip that I would have made, and I just raised within the last couple of days, that would be beneficial. If you can agree to do that, I would hope that we do it quickly so that by the end of the month, we would have the complete transition over to that new method of doing accounting.
guess I understand where you're coming from, but I have some reservations in that we're going into an audit right now, and you stated that, you know, there was so much work that the accountant that you had now didn't want to take it on. Are we going to be able to do that? I mean, we're going to be involving human resources, we're going to be involving the accounting department, and I don't know that we have enough background knowledge yet to know, is it going to be double the size of what they're doing now?
Let me clarify, we would still maintain and run our human resources, except for the interface that we already have. That would not change. You know, and maybe Pete, both of you can identify just your preliminary review, because when I first asked, I sat down to see is this feasible before even having a conversation. We thought it, I believe we thought it was feasible, and it was going to be raised up to you. So the change in accountants that we had, she was changing and is a solo practitioner. And she's got a very large client, Ms. Crawford, who, anyone who knows Ms. Crawford, not only has a large business, but can be very insistent about her needs. So I think it became more for her, given the size of the demands that she had. It's fairly traditional auditing, accounting functions, but I leave it to your staff. I just raised the proposition and got the impression that it could work without disrupting your current capacity and your current needs.
I think I would like to address the fact that for the moment, it's my understanding that the DA's records are on QuickBooks and the records at the county are on Tyler, and that QuickBooks is a software that the county does not own. That kind of thing would have to be looked at. I would be very curious to know if at the time that we used to do this for the former DA's office, whenever we did this, did it go through existing system or was it a standalone system?
It went through existing, it went through the existing.
It did?
Well,
Okay.
we didn't have Tyler then, we had ACS.
Okay.
The only difference there was we ran all their paperwork through their tax ID, done separate.
Okay.
Separate, all their different quarterlies, kind of how we talked about how we used to do Head Starts.
And I think that would be the preference. You don't want two different, yeah.
All right, well, Kim, since you were here then, since the DA's office is a separate office and state, were you having, not your view, but with former DA, were you having difficulties getting information from them on time to do it properly? Was it?
The only thing that I cover right now is their insurance.
Years ago?
Prior.
When we used to do the district
Yes.
attorney's books,
Yes.
no, because it was easier because it was all in-house.
So it wasn't a hang-up then? So you didn't have to, I need your stuff, or?
Yeah, I mean, if you maintain the platform, and I tend to agree, I'm not a believer that government ought to have a number of different accounting systems or reporting systems or whatever. To the extent that this happens, it ought to be on a platform that makes sense for everybody. The only requirements would be that they could be segregated for security purposes, but that's I think easily done. So that's the item number one. And then the other part of it is if you maintain all of that information, to the extent that you need information, which is part of what you need for auditing, you know, it's a simple phone call saying we need it, and you know, the return call is you have it on our system, here's the email authorizing you to access it and provide it and use it. So I see a lot of benefit from it, simply not only from our office, but I think just in general. The larger thing that I think that is appropriate, and that is, I think all the departments ought to consider doing this, because then what happens is you generate a cost efficiency with sufficient staff in your finance department to perform all of those functions. The thing that would be different, but it's no different than anything else, is we would still have to contract outside for an accounting firm to perform the audit of the books that we have. But as we talked about it, at some point, fairly soon, if you agree to do this, we still have to have essentially a mini audit to confirm the handoff from where you get it to you all. It's a protection for everyone. But I think this can be a cost savings thing for the county. To the extent that you might need another full-time FTE, if we're 1/10, 2/10 of an FTE, you have other departments for whom that can be done, they, by that, you can essentially contribute the money, the departments can contribute the money so that you fund the work that's done by finance for each of us.
Well, I think that's something that we need to explore a lot more. I mean, there's a whole lot more questions, and we need to sit down with our accounting and Pete and go over this.
I just wanted to raise it because it's something that for me is time sensitive and time critical. But before I make a move anywhere else, I thought it was appropriate to raise the question here.
Join the club, everybody's on that tight. We needed it yesterday.
No, I understand. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Oh, really quick, I have CTSI coming for that class on March 13th, and she's the one who does the assessment of the building, so I'll have her come over and look at the apartment when she's here.
Good.
Discussion of auction for excess equipment and furniture. Hearing no discussion on
Who do you want to discuss?
Yes, well,
I guess I'd ask get some direction on how we want to proceed with auctioning off, how we want to phrase it, some of the DHS stuff, and at the same time, maybe with some road and bridge stuff that we've accumulated since our last auction. And I've sent some emails regarding site that Arlene had found somehow in a Rob Jordan with gubdeals.com. And I spoke with Rob a bit earlier today, and he explained some questions that I wanted to answer. And he said, generally speaking, that GovDeals does only list things from local governments, from the state on down. And he said city, county, Denver list with GovDeals and some other governmental agencies, including our neighbor to the northeast. I know that they do also Charlotte County. We spoke with their public works director, and he's real pleased with the results that they're getting from GovDeals versus them doing it in-house or actually going to Myers auction that was there on Highway 50 near Rocky Ford. When we did our auction a few years back, it took some time. We can do it again if that's the board's direction. What we essentially did was took pictures of everything that we wanted to put on the auction, put it up on the website, and also contacted the local folks that we thought might be interested in their stuff and advertised it in the paper. And I can't see why, if we do decide to go with a GovDeals or some other type of online auction house, why we couldn't do the same and advertise in our local paper that, hey, this stuff's up there on this site and also on our own website. So I think as far as letting the immediate community know, we can do it like we did in the past. Fees and charges, what Rob told me is that we have options when we set up our account. If we decide to go this way, he said that we have options whenever we set up our account to either have a 10% buyer's fee. They charge 10%. They'd be in the company that oversees GovDeal, and it's called Liquidity. I can't services. It looks like.
big word,
Well, big word is small print. I don't have my glasses on, obviously. But he said that they charge a 10% fee. We either pass that on to the buyer or we pay it out of our pocket. Most agencies push that all from the buyer. It's a buyer's fee, which makes sense because then, in my opinion, because then once we receive payment, they take the 10% out of that payment, and we don't have to cut a check or something or wire transfer of 10%. So if it's a $100 bid, we charge the buyer $110, they take the 10, we get the 100. He also said that What they do is they will cut a check, if we prefer check, or do a direct deposit weekly on the merchandise that's been sold.
So is it like a timeline auction, or it's just ongoing until it's gone?
We set a start date and an end date.
Yeah. On the last auction, I was here, right at the end of, I think last year, was January. Do you think, Phil, we can probably make more people by doing it online like this than we did at our last auction, just to...
Yes, I do, because it's difficult to tell where the bidders are bidding from on an online auction, but the one in Otero County I looked at had 7 bidders, although the same bidder, at least the information I was looking at, bid all 7 times. But I looked at some others, City of Trinidad, worked with these folks some time back, and yeah, they had like up to 20-some bidders on some of their merchandise.
We're going to attract a larger audience and make more money. Yeah.
And I did make some copies of it.
You can do it at home. You can get it at home.
You can bid from your, this is your Otero County Truck and Trade.
Bid from your phone. And typically is a month or 2 weeks or? What's the
Depends on how-
I mean, I've been on somewhere it's a whole month.
It depends on how quickly we want to move the merchandise, in my opinion. Like, we've got this van that's been sitting out there, I think it came from the corner. It's been sitting out there since the last auction, and put it in the online bid for maybe a month. But if Arlene's got stuff that she needs to move quicker, a week, 2 weeks. And he also bid this Rob Jordan, said they also advertise in Rock and Dirt and some other outside publications that the site is here. And he said also that they have a history of buyers, and let's say a buyer has a history of purchasing one-ton trucks. If an agency lists a one-ton truck, they will email that buyer, let them know that there are merchandise or vehicles within a category they typically bid upon. So that's
So open to more people.
yeah. Then if
Former people that purchased.
right, they may not necessarily come to the site and look every day, but they will get an email if it's a light purchase that's being advertised. And I'm not saying we go with gun deals. It just Arlene brought it up. I looked at it. To me, it made sense at least to maybe try it once, and if we get shot in the foot, then go back to the old way of doing it in the house.
Well, where you have a buyer premium there, we may not make a lot of money, but
Yeah,
we might make some.
the buyer's going to know exactly right. The buyer's going to know they're going to be stuck with another 10% on top of whatever they bid to the buyer's fee.
So have you got a lot of stuff, Arlene, or you don't?
We're gonna have some. We're gonna have some desks that we won't be bringing. There's, we don't have as much space over here as we did over there, so we'll be leaving, like bookshelves and chairs.
Well, it looks like the desks are already furnished in there now.
For the most part, we just have one office that I need to order for.
The old desks over the old building.
Yeah, and some of them are, still in good shape, others not so much, they've been there a long time, so. We've got, monitors, computer monitors, a bunch of those.
Maybe we can upgrade the ones in here and auction the ones we have here. Because those are newer, like 5-year-old.
Yeah, because every 3 years they're refreshed,
Phil
so,
needs new monitors.
yeah, and they're the
For all the monitors.
15-inch monitors too, so, yeah, if anybody needs them, we've got a bunch of monitors. Just odds and ends of office stuff. We've
So
got
that's-
some outdoor furniture that we put outside in the summertime, so we've got the umbrellas.
list going. No. No, the margaritas are.
Yeah. So that could probably start like a couple days or so after the 2-day mass exodus from one building to the other. And then you know for sure what you got.
Okay, we got a fair amount of stuff here. Are you finding or not?
I have no idea.
No, I mean on the inventory that people say we don't need this anymore.
Paul is actually uploading it for me, so I haven't really looked at it now.
Okay.
Paul's been looking at it, plus I don't even know if I've received anything, but it's due by the 15th.
Speaking of inventory, I have to do the commissioner's offices, so tomorrow is
tough.
my day to.
I come in tomorrow, you have all day you want.
Also, it goes to process, and the question is, like when you say you have monitors, I think that we have an old computer in my office. I would like to get it clean of data, but keep perhaps the software and provide it at the airport so that the guys could do a flight plan and we would need a monitor. If that were the case, then would we have to make some payment for these excess monitors that you're getting rid of? How will we do that?
Deals.com.
And deals.com. That's very careful.
There you go.
No, I think if somebody needs a monitor, you can just come get it, because we brought some over already. And whatever's
You're not
left.
poor like Little Bridge, are you?
Oh, we are, but the state brings it and then they just leave the monitors. They don't take the monitors back, so.
I like this idea.
Yeah, I think it's worth a try.
I like it. I like it.
Okay, I guess that's a good one. We'll see, then we'll wait till Arlene's moved out and call me or whatever you want to do. You want to take pictures and who do you want to ramrod this deal? I guess I've got staff or they didn't have it.
I'm sorry,
Who do you want the ramrod to do?
I think I'm looking
Who
at
do you
it.
want the ramrod to do?
Also, when they do that move, these two have already offered your services with the front end loader to help them.
Yeah, we were thinking cleaning, plugging out of the loader, going over there, then you can, have it at the right height. So they're not bending over or lifting up, and then just backing up, turning around and unloading it.
Or a forklift maybe?
Yeah, that,
You know what?
yeah, that would work.
You know what is over there? I haven't any idea what we're looking at.
The what?
I don't have any idea what we're looking at over there to move. I don't know if the loader's better or forklift or.
I think you're gonna have a lot of boxes, right?
Boxes, file cabinets, probably full of files unless you want us to take them all out.
The worst of it is with a forklift, we're gonna have to add some pallets or something. I mean, make it easy. If you got that bucket, a 2-yard bucket, put it in there and then just throw it back and take it over there.
In a dumpster, is that what you're talking about?
No, the DOC guys unload.
Well, Department of Corrections is, they help with
Did you already schedule that already? No, you might want to. Yeah.
I mean, that would be the only thing is that, it would be,
What's your question?
yeah.
I was just gonna say, give me a heads up when you're gonna do it, because I don't have any loaders here at the fair, well, one real old one, but it won't. I don't know if it even trim over here. I got the loaders out east, so just give me a heads up so I can get one back in.
If you get one of the big loaders, I think you can go across the sidewalk, up those steps and just put it right in the door.
I need to take the
Don't
loaders.
damage the door because the veterans will be all over it.
Thanks. I think one of those will turn it.
You must have had a long time ago. What did happen? Police? Yes, that question. What happened?
Danny was just in the courthouse about a week ago, and I saw him, I said, give me that quote, I'm not cool. You guys too hard.
I don't want to make you guys a check for shades.
Discussion of underfunded courthouse committee.
Okay. As you know, we do have the courthouse, and one of the major discussions is that what we had wanted to do is talk about, are we going to attempt to do oversight work in-house, and/or if we're going to try to get an RFP for someone to do oversight work. And there are a number of items inside the grant itself about conditions that we need to meet. I have started making a file for each one of them, but my thought was, in terms of a committee, would be that starting with the process that we have to go through, the review of, say, just dollars and cents numbers, that's easy to me. But in terms of what has to happen for securing the, and we're working on the pilings and stuff like that, and getting all of the work, I think that I'd like to know, in times past when we worked with 360, that we said we could not use them for a, sole source, but were we going to consider doing anything about hiring them or someone similar to plan out this work? We have till 2018 to get this done. We heard Bob Kryman indicate that as long as we got started, that they might give us extensions and so on. But so that's what I wanted to start, at least the discussion about who might be on that committee to get this going. Now, again, I say the numbers are fairly easy in terms of just document processing and invoices, all of that. That would be accounting, and I could do that. But we need someone who knows what we're looking at by way of getting someone to get this process started. There's the other, and they're pointing at you, Dean.
Yeah, I figured it. Now, the only thing that's, of course, most projects and everything, I mean, Phil does a really, really good job of putting out some specs on this stuff. In the past, who wrote those? When we bid projects out, who wrote the specs?
Generally, the contract.
Wrote the specs?
Well, we would have somebody in and then they would look at it, but we never had any oversight. We never had anybody on job.
So we didn't have like just an engineer
Or
where they wrote the specs, bid it out?
I mean, this building over here, this engineer did that. Found out he wasn't an engineer, and so nothing was right.
Okay.
So, yeah, we need, I mean, on something like that,
Local engineering for my knowledge. Because this,
yeah,
the stabilization is
big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a specialized, you really gotta know what you're doing, and anybody inspecting it, has to.
We try to pay someone to oversee it,
That's been,
they know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we might put that out to bid.
Yeah.
So we have to do an RFQ to have somebody oversee it.
I mean, it's just like what he's saying, that this jack of this mud jack, I don't have any clue. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't.
That's what
seen
it is.
it done, but
360 did
I've
the
never
whole
done
preliminary for us.
What's that?
360 did the whole preliminary for us. Do we want to actually look at them again, or we can't look at them?
You know, I think you put it out, whoever bids on it and gets the most bid that we're comfortable with. I mean,
And we got the paperwork before from 360.
I think
Basically
that
describes the work process that we've got.
we have a lot of the 360. I think that what we have to do is make sure that it is a fair procurement process. But more particularly, if we're looking at planning and scheduling as opposed to and writing the specs about what has to be done, good portion of that is already there. What we also have to do is then start to, formalize who we're going to be working with and get them bidded out. The other thing that I have to do is get that letter from the Historical Society that says that they would be making comments about what this project is, because we're in the Historical Society district. So those are things I think that can easily happen. But as we move forward, if we, I think I heard that if we wanted to continue to work with 360, as long as it was an open, fair procurement process, we could continue to do so.
We need to get the budget started sooner or
Yes,
later, so I
we
would
have.
probably go as far as maybe even having Dean chair the committee. Because
And-
on that field.
And also, basically, we would have to come up and write a description of what needs to be done, and we are seeking an engineering firm
Yeah, okay.
for the oversight and bidding process of it. And it might,
Put a plaque outside, it's Dean Walter chair.
this fall, you just throw in the hole after before they backfill.
The question I have, I don't think it's anything to worry about, but we got stuff from 360, was that proprietary, or did we buy it for the 10,000?
We bought it.
Yeah.
We paid.
The design,
Yeah.
Okay,
we paid it for the 10,000.
okay,
We did.
so we don't need to worry about that if we look at their
No,
plans.
right.
Right.
All right, that's,
And then, the other cost that we would probably incur, of course, is soils testing. You know, they're gonna have to dig down, do the jacking, they're gonna have to dig down inside the building and jack from the inside. And then as they backfill it, we're gonna have to have some soils testing done to make sure that it's compacted and, it doesn't settle.
Who was the firm that did Holy Trinity?
What's that?
Who was the firm?
It might be the same firm that gave the estimate. I think it could be Straight Line. There's not very many companies
That's
out
price
there.
for special.
I'll check with John Pierce on that.
But the engineer, if I'm hoping we get some good hits, they'll know some companies out there that do this kind of thing. Of course, we've got one price that we had to use for the grant, but
okay, Dean, you pick who you want on that committee to start in the morning.
I'll start here in about an hour.
Okay.
If you're all right with that, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone's here.
we're just gonna pile it on.
Yeah, because we really have to move on this. I think our goal money for sure has to be spent by the end of this year.
Yeah, I think that.
And you figure if this is gonna take, let's just say for conversation piece, if it takes 120 days or 90 days, that's 3 months, and then the roof, that's another 3 months. We're already at 6 months.
Well, the roof is a little bit like his asphalt deal. If you do it in summertime, it works a whole lot better.
Yeah, that's right. So,
Well, I'll get initially with you and we'll see
Okay.
who else
We'll do
we're
this.
gonna draft. How's that?
It's not a little project,
No,
it's a
it's-
big project.
it's not been done very often in this town.
You're gonna have some shoulders there.
At least I want to report tomorrow, do it.
The building's settling in.
We're gonna put tape on the stairs.
Okay.
Yeah, fix those stairs too. Hopefully we'll crack some doors.
So we'll get together.
Finish what they're doing, it should stabilize it.
to move this now.
Okay, discussion of IT problems. Discussion of bid problems.
IT problems. I don't know if we have, we have some email problems, we have some service problems. And increasingly, the email problems are seemingly different for individuals. I know, Mac, you had some late emails. I know today that we were told by Al that he had received no emails since last Friday when we had a server thing a couple of weeks ago. And my emails were all quadrupled. I got them coming from since the day I was hired, just coming in. So I'm still deleting emails. But I think we're also at a point where we've asked Triad to give us a update on where we stand with how much money they owe. They have approached us last year, mid-year, about wanting us to renew with them. I don't think that we feel really comfortable about moving forward and paying them in advance for services because they're just not responsive.
Mr. Goodwin is no longer with the company. Josh went on his own.
Right.
So,
And the other thing that we've had is that internally we've had some about this Hayden guy who is much more responsive. And
is
so.
a kernel like a kernel or a kernel like a corn?
It's a
Corn.
Because he's like
It's-
18, isn't he?
It's kernel like corn. Yeah.
kernel like corn.
I thought it was Colonel like Colonel.
No, it's kernel like corn, kernel.
No, he's
Guys,
a
I'll
young,
tell you,
he's young.
He's very young. He's very good. He's fixed, every time he's come and helped us, he's solved our problems for us.
Joey, are you having any problems?
I'm not having any problems. We know the issues that I had last year when we had, my server blew up and I had to throw it in a Jeep and drive it personally to Lahaina and back. As a matter of fact, just 20 minutes ago, I got off the phone with Josh. We're looking for a PC system for my office, so he's putting that together. Yes, it's a little hard when we don't have somebody here locally, when we have an issue to come in and meet that demand or that issue right then and there. My concern with changing IT is I have 4 different software systems and computer systems that Josh has put together and integrated, and handing that over to someone else is going to take some knowledge and some time. He's been very, very good at responding and getting on my computer this year, and when we have issues with like my GIS mapping or the website that we host out to the public, he gets on, he fixes it in a very that-day manner. He'll even call me sometimes late at night or home when he's working on it if we run into a hiccup. Like I said, we've had some issues, but we've worked past them and we've worked through them. I don't see a problem with them. It is nice to have somebody here locally. My concern is with Hayden. He's very, very bright. He's worked on stuff in my office in the past. My concern is he's so intelligent and so bright. What happens when he moves on to a bigger or a better job? Or
That was my question. Is he attending college? Is he still in high school? Is he going to move away?
And that's it. I hate to get into a system, or he's wonderful, he does a great job, but he's probably going to pursue his future here shortly, and then where does that leave us?
He likely will. There's another person. We had been told about a Rob Jenkins, and he's with Edge Technology. I hear a lot of good things. He's come forward, and I wanted to have meetings with us. But I think the biggest thing is that we right now have an ongoing contract, and do we want to consider allowing that contract to end?
I mean, as far as my office, Josh has done well when he's in. Last time he was in the building, he hooked up some new equipment and did a little bit of networking for us that we needed to have rearranged and done. Like I said, that one time when I literally had to drive the server, that was because we could not afford to be down, and thank God I wasn't blessed enough to be able to load up the server and physically get it there. A lot of what he does is remote in, or he's doing it via the internet. As like the service thing we had going where the internet went down or our server went down, it affects my office too, because all of our GIS and our web data, our web server is on that server. So when that's down, none of my public information gets out to the public.
And it appears to me that what Josh has done for you and for Peach in terms of that special IP address and various things, those are a little more technical than what some of the other people need. But when we have ours, we're fooling around with things like emails. And then my big concern is that all of the licenses, we don't have a kind of control factor in that with how many Microsoft Office licenses do we have, and do we have Adobe Pro, and who has it, and if we did get it, when we get new computers, there's the old computers lying on the floor for life, and here's the new one up and ready. This is the kind of thing that is, it's not responsive to the needs of our whole county. We have issues at the airport that Christy had to go spend a lot of time and ride Josh on. And so it's some things, like I say, your needs that with special IP address and the very good, but the other just kind of maintaining a whole network of working system where we're more broken.
Would it be worth to hire a person to be our IT as an employee?
So where's the money coming from, Christie?
From your budget. I already put it in there for you, non
And I do understand
But it's just discussion, correct? I'm
What do
saying,
you
we're going
want?
to contract services to the whole company, would it be worth to have one employee to be IT to serve the whole entire Los Angeles County?
Well, I just wonder what you're bribing Josh with, because you're the only one he's doing it for.
Well, you know, once I got done chewing on his fanny, we started seeing eye to eye a lot better. Mike is,
Actually, we have Josh doing our work too, because in the past, I've been here long enough, we've had a number of local IT people work on our stuff out there, but as was alluded to a minute ago, this colonel moving on, every one of them moved on, so then we had to start back over. And we just kind of adopted Jody's philosophy, and that is, we'll stick with someone as long as they're still around to work, and he's done us okay.
Well, and I think the problem that we're having is possibly they have more on the upper hand than we do, Josh and his company. So we may probably need to go and renegotiate how we do business with him and what we expect from him and how we expect him. And I think it can be done. But he has to know that when we need the services, we get the services.
that's it, when we need them. And when your computer goes down, like when my server went down, we're in the middle of reevaluation. I don't have time, I don't have days to wait. It was like,
We can put penalty clauses in there. That's
You're right.
Hey, if you look at this number, we're gonna take away hours or add more hours because of how it doesn't.
We also need, we need a lot of upgrade. You know, and I don't know if he wants to give us, that's gonna be really costly within, our phone system. I'm saying, to like go to each computer and update it, and I'm saying, we need a lot. And right now, I think we all kind of handle the little things, but it would really be nice to have somebody, I'm thinking, in our building.
If you hurry and go,
Of course.
if you hurry and go across the street before they move in, I got a brand new phone system.
and like my concern to your notion there, Pete, was like leftover computer equipment. That's why my office, we lease our computers. That way we get updated, I get all the new Microsoft Office, Adobe's, all of that. It's in part of my lease. I understand admin, you probably own, the county owns those computer systems, but like in my office, we lease them. They're not mine, we don't own those, so we can keep update and keep current with new technology, the new licenses and things of that. It's all bundled as part of my contracts.
Well, and I think that overall for the county, let's just say county general, that in the event that people leave, there's who's the keeper of the passwords, who's the keeper of all of the IP addresses, who's the keeper of all of this stuff. We don't have control.
We
We have nothing.
We don't know any of that, none of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I would just like to say that I would reiterate many of Jody's comments regarding the IT, and I think it's very valuable to have somebody on site, on hand, who can come into the office when the server comes down today, not wait for them to come from Lahana. And as Christy addressed the phone system, I have to say, I receive thousands of voicemails every day. You guys have taken the heat from that as well. I can sit and return phone calls all day long. I can spend an entire day returning phone calls. But when I call, the number shows up as unknown. Or
Right.
something that they
That's
don't,
right.
a
That's
number that they
right.
don't recognize, so we're playing constant phone tag.
Yes.
So we need a better phone system in place so that people know that they're getting their phone call returned. Because I can leave messages, I can waste my time all day long calling these people back. Also,
Make a good point.
I'm going to change my greeting to give them the online address to renew tags, the iDoc Market address to check on recording information. That might take a little bit of the stress off, but it's not only in my office. You guys are all affected by it. I get phone calls from each and every one of you and messages because as soon as I clear that mailbox out, it fills up again. And like I said, I have one of my employees is about to have a baby. She's gonna be gone. We're training 2 new employees. It's gonna take a little bit of time for them to get there. One of my employees' wives is very sick and might need some major surgery, so it's just, the battle is ongoing. But I would like to address the phone system for one, because, like I said, if I call somebody back, I know I don't answer my cell phone if I don't
Should be a
recognize them.
programming thing. Do we buy a block from Century or?
I have no idea. I'm a county.
And there again, this is exactly
I have
what,
no idea.
this is
Nobody
exactly
can
what our
charge it.
issue is because depending on whether it's Thane or if it's the colonel or whomever, is that we've got these phone systems and they'll always tell me it comes in unknown. And even when we're calling other people that we know, and so altogether the data management.
Maybe even put that, you know, when we return your call, more likely, your caller ID will show as known
And I won't answer it.
That's great news, but I don't know how much it would alleviate.
It does, because
Does yours do that, Phil? Does it come up restricted as well from your offices?
Unknown.
I don't know.
it's all unknown, and oh my God, thank
You mean when we dial out, we
phone
have to
system
receive? I'm not sure what.
20 years ago.
But, you know, normally, when I get an unknown phone call, it's either from the courthouse or the hospital. That's the only 2 unknown.
But that's you. That's not somebody in Texas or Oklahoma
Yes, or
or.
Denver.
Yeah.
That's expecting it to show
Well,
Los
that's
Angeles
true,
County
yeah.
Courthouse or something.
We need something that will identify us when we call back.
Courthouse, and if you don't leave a message, I don't know who to call back.
Exactly, you don't have any. Most of ours, like we're like Peach, they will not answer.
Well,
so
like
we
I
leave
say,
messages.
I leave a message and say, I'm returning your phone call. And then it's phone tag from there on. Hence, blocking up the system because they're leaving multiple messages and.
Or their system, their home phone system or whatever will not accept unknown or
Yes,
blocked
right.
calls. And so I have no way to
Yeah.
leave a message.
Also,
And I get messages that say, I am returning a call to this number, and it's something I have no clue what they're talking about, because somebody else made the call, they don't know who to call.
All right, I think we're all in agreement on that. We need to upgrade that to the.
The phone
the phone system definitely, and on the IT, as for our website,
You know, do we want to look at actually an IT company, an IT person, or something to kind of to come in and handle this? Because that's what we're looking at.
that's also something that we can also leave on voicemail. If they can't reach the office, we can leave a website that's actually,
Well,
I mean, the one that we have currently has wrong phone numbers.
we also, I think one of the numbers, did you ever find out, one of the numbers still said it were on 3 days, but I don't know if they ever found out what number it was. Did you ever find that number?
No, and someone else told me that one of the numbers says that it's Leslie Frescus is the.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you, we need somebody with IT capability to fix this because
But this is the phone as opposed to
It's
real
a-
IT.
yeah, I think they're two
Both
separate.
need to be fixed.
Yes.
Yeah, they both need to be fixed,
They
correct.
do both.
Because there's so many multiple numbers that link to, like,
Yes.
to her number.
So we need to come out of the dark ages.
Yeah, we just need to upgrade our phone system.
Yes, and our county website, because my GIS data is attached to the Los Angeles County website, it needs some serious maintenance done to it.
And that would take
It's
a lot of heat off of all of our backs because
It's all pointing to
if
an
they
IT
can just
person, that's what
Google
it's
it
all pointing
and
to.
find it on the website, they will figure it out if we have the correct information on there. Now, who is gonna have access to that? so that I can update my motor vehicle information, my recording information,
Well, I know
yada, yada.
Paula has
Jody.
access, and I think Phil Dornan fixes the website.
That's great news, except that Paula doesn't know what is required for recording, what is required for motor vehicles.
Or
If we can have access ourselves, that would be great, but I don't know how far we're jumping into that.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to upgrade that website, because I think that it's, the Senate's already passed it, the House is probably gonna pass it. We're gonna be able to put our financials, you know, that we have to post twice,
On
Yes.
website.
and that's gonna be on the website, and so that's gonna have
That's
to
gonna
be.
be a perfect opportunity then,
Right.
let's all upgrade, let's all.
And one of the issues, I don't have time to go in there and upgrade my portion of the website. I doubt you have time to do it, so that's where an IT person, we call them and say, hey, Sam, this is what can you attach this there? Can we attach this here? So when they do go to our Los Animas County website, it's going to the right spot.
It will alleviate a lot of the phone calls, at least. Even if we have to leave it in their voice greeting. Here's where you go, here's the information. It's gonna take a lot of heat off of all of us.
And my only request for IT is if we can find somebody or a business that's established, because Hayden is wonderful, he's a very intelligent, bright young man. If I were a company out there, I would be poaching him, because he is that bright.
Well, and we do have this fellow that I got Century Savings recommended and other people at this point. It's unusual to have that talent in town. And maybe we just have to have, just see if he could come.
It'd be nice to have somebody local that's like that.
Yeah.
That would actually be able to
Yeah.
come in and
Just
fix
come
it.
in on the fly, right now.
I would like somebody local,
Yeah.
nothing towards Triad, they're
Right.
so far away.
And I don't know, if, as the county budget, if we could afford an IT. If you've looked at other counties that have IT, they're paying a very nice wage for that service.
Right, but if this company has different clients, then, and it's something that we could at least look into. And so, why don't I do that?
I think it would be nice to offer somebody a decent wage, just to be here to serve us.
We take out your budget
But-
or my budget?
Yours, of course.
She already said her was coming.
Yeah, I know, finding the money is hard, but, we're getting back to where we used to be, slowly.
Yeah, we have to start looking.
But
at
those
this.
are, I've said it since day one, since we started sinking into that hole. IT is major. Can't live without it today, it really is.
Technology. So this whole process, we should be able to get on, call and get online and do stuff.
Right, we can't even get hot water to some of the restrooms in this building, and we're asking for a lot of IT.
That's another thing, but that's not for
Yeah,
today's
that's-
work session.
That's a lot easier to get out.
It is.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, I addressed my concerns.
Thanks, Steve and I.
So we got a lot to do, but and he's got some
discussion.
pathways.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Already?
We would have to have a motion for this meeting.
We're just a couple hours.
So, thank you, everybody.
I know where that was.